This will be pretty brief. We did it. We did it. And you know, I got to tell you, as I stand here sort of representing this city and this city's employees and all of the folks that have helped to make this successful, we could not have done it any better than what we did. I mean, I think this community, in every aspect of it, from the host committee to law enforcement, to our volunteers, to city staff, could not have done a better job, and I could not be prouder of them. I mean, I think we have set the standard for how these events should run. I think the preparation that went into this and the discipline with which it was executed, from the police officer on the street to our solid waste crew to our parking folks to the volunteers, I mean, it was flawless. It was absolutely flawless. And so as I go to Charlotte on Tuesday, I will be a more than interested observer of how it works in Charlotte. But I will tell you that I think this has set this community up for great things down the road. I think when we look back at this 10 years from now, they will say about this RNC and about the success with which we hosted it, that this was a turning point for Tampa. This is when we played on the international stage, and we just knocked it out of the park. And I could not be prouder of the folks that are standing up here with me. Santiago, who was assigned to this 2 years ago, long before I got here under Mayor Iorio's leadership, and has shepherded the internal side of this through the process. He didn't have gray hair back then. He certainly does now. Obviously, Chief Castor and all of the law enforcement personnel who really, being out there on the streets, and you saw the professionalism with which they operated, the way they de-escalated conflict, that they didn't let the level of aggression get beyond what it should have been. They were as much tour guides and hosts for Tampa as they were law enforcement personnel, and I think it was proved in the number of arrests that we have and the complimentary things that even the anarchists said about us. We wear that as a badge of honor, and it really was a magnificent, magnificent show for Tampa. And I will tell you, this the folks of this city should be proud of not only the people here, but the thousands of volunteers. I mean, I can't tell you how many people would stop me on the streets of this community, delegates, media members, celebrities, and say this is the warmest, most welcoming city that we have ever been to. And that was largely because of the volunteers who greeted them when they got off the airplane and never stopped greeting them until the last drink was poured last night. And so now we go about the business of, you know, taking down the fences, removing the barricades, getting back to fixing potholes and getting cats out of trees. But we couldn't be happier. Obviously, we're all exhausted. Don't ask me about the DNC, and don't ask me about hosting another thing for another week at least, because we're going to go get some sleep. But it was a great event, and everyone should be proud. Inconveniences aside, this city stood up. We stood tall. The world was watching. We juggled a hurricane and the RNC at the same time. We did it flawlessly, and I couldn't be prouder. So I'm going to let the folks who are up here say something. Chief Castor, we can't say enough about the performance of Tampa Police Department. I was out there last night about 1:30 saying goodbye to some of the troops that were getting on the buses and going home, and they did an amazing job. They were happy to be a part of this experience. They complimented our police department and paid them the ultimate compliment, saying that, you know, this department did a great job under Chief Castor's leadership. They couldn't have done any better. They were proud to be a part of this team, and we're lucky to have them. And Chief, it's all yours.
Thanks, Mayor. It truly was a team effort with all of the law enforcement throughout the state. And as I have said during the days of the RNC, that we have the best law enforcement in the nation here in Florida, and I think they've proven that over the last 4 days. They've done a great job. I never heard one criticism of any trooper, deputy, or officer out there on the street, and that's kind of difficult when you bring that many people together under these circumstances. Absolutely nothing but praise. So very, very proud of them, and we're going to have a press conference here soon where we can thank the individuals who really did the lion's share of the work. You know, I stand before you as a representative, but I certainly didn't do the work. It's the men and women of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office and the Tampa Police Department, and very, very proud of all of our agencies in the Tampa Bay area and throughout the state of Florida. Thanks.
Ken? Well, good morning, everybody. So glad to see everybody got up earlier. We had a great night last night. It was fantastic. I'm wearing the same suit, just a different shirt, different tie as well. But it was great. We had a good time. We were driving around the city this week talking to a lot of people, lots of delegates. This is the 5th convention I've been involved in some form or fashion. I was a volunteer starting back in '96, and then here we are today. Every single delegate I talked to, without exception, said this is the best convention we've ever been to. New York was the standard bearer until now, and no offense to my friends in New York, because I know a lot of the guys and gals that ran that one. This one was the best one we've ever done. We had people driving us around this week, volunteers, and I had the privilege of having a retired military drive me around for a couple days, and he said the one thing that I think stuck out, and it applies to Tampa: stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And that's what Tampa did. They stayed ready the whole time. They never had to get ready because they were always ready. They were ready from day one. They stayed ready the entire time. And this convention was a fantastic success. Best event I've ever been involved with. 2 arrests or 3 arrests. I mean, it was incredible. It was really incredible. So volunteers, all the men and women that came into town to make this convention fantastic, we thank them. And Mayor and Chief Castor and Santiago, thank you all very, very much.
Good team.
Yeah.
Santiago?
Mayor, thank you. It has been such an honor and a privilege to work under this mayor's leadership for the last year and a half in putting together probably the most complicated and complex event that we have ever undertaken. The many, many moving parts to make sure that they all work together. Law enforcement, you saw up front all the time, but the men and women that work behind the scenes, that operated the call center, that operated the emergency operations center, that operated the joint information center, all of the folks that were monitoring, all the folks that were making sure to get out there and make sure that the services were provided, that the rest of the city was being taken care of. Those are unsung heroes that we didn't see out there on the front lines, and they deserve a lot of credit. The mayor has mentioned all the folks that came up to us and said, you know, what a great and friendly city, how well organized. When we're out there wearing our credentials, some of our locals don't know whether we're here, whether we're locals, or whether we're here visiting. And I can tell you that the layman on the street would ride by on their bikes and say, welcome to Tampa. Can we point you in the right direction? Can we give you a ride somewhere? And that's gratifying. Our citizens and all of our agencies stepping up to make sure that we shined and we did it the right way. We can write a manual, Mayor, on how to do this because of the way we had all the parts working together like a well-oiled machine to make sure that we could all stand here before you today and say that we had a truly successful event. Mayor's leadership, Mayor involved in all of the intimate details, down, like he says, in the weeds, knowing exactly what was going on all of the time. Just a fabulous, fabulous effort on behalf of everyone. And I want to thank all of the city employees that, again, might not have been seen out there, but really, really put their hearts and souls into the event. Thank you, Mayor.
I am still looking for the man-eating palmetto bugs, but we'll take some questions now if anybody has any.
Mayor, it looked like the fencing came down before even sunup. Was that a point to get it down as quickly as possible, make the city look back?
Absolutely. We want to get back to business. I mean, as all of you know, if any of you are still awake the morning after Gasparilla, I mean, we go through and we clean, and these folks work all night to get the city ready. We did the same thing here. The fences are starting to come down. 2 o'clock in the morning when I was out here, there was crews out there taking the fences down. Most of the roads are open. Obviously, some of the security perimeter is still intact. Over the next 2 days, that will be removed as well. We hope to be fully back to business as we know it by Monday, and the city won't miss a beat. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, 2 questions. Yeah. One serious, one not so serious. One, how much sleep did you get last night?
Last night, not very much. The alarm went off at 5 o'clock. I got the kids up and drove them to school. I think I probably went to bed at 2 o'clock last night.
Second, did you get everything you wanted out of this convention? Did you get the exposure? Did you get everything you wanted?
Time will tell. I think in the short term we absolutely did. I think having to juggle the hurricanes and the RNC gave us an awful lot of additional exposure. And I think over time we will know to a greater degree the impact of this as the economic development numbers we'll be able to quantify better. I think the long-term residual impact of an event like this and hosting it as well as we did, it takes perhaps decades to really realize. You can tell I'm tired. Fully realize the potential of this and the upside. But I think in the long run, Having done this as well as we did will pay huge dividends for us as a city, not only in terms of additional convention business, not only in terms of the additional tens of millions of mentions of Tampa, Florida that occurred as a result of this, but the relationships that were built, and the world knowing that when it comes to hosting an event like this, that we do it as well as anybody out there.
Mayor, a question for you and Ken Jones. This is always designed as a 4-day event. Obviously, circumstances made it only a 3-day event. Any disappointment in that?
No. I mean, the only difference was the delegates spent their money indoors as opposed to outdoors. They were here. They were still renting the same number of rooms. I mean, we estimated running into this that over 90,000 room nights occurred as a result of this, and occurred at a time that normally the city and the Bay Area is not busy because it's the middle of the downtime for the tourist season. So, did it affect much? No. It compressed the schedule. I honestly think that over the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to start to see all the conventions go to a 3-day window as opposed to a 4-day. I mean, Ken would know better than I, but certainly Charlotte is doing it. Now Tampa proved that it could do it and get the business done. So no, I think it was a win-win for everybody. I think the delegates had a great time. I think they spent a lot of money. And so, that was ultimately the short-term goal.
Chief, this has got to be among the most peaceful, fewest arrests at a Republican convention. What worked so well, especially in dealing with the protesters?
Well, as I have said throughout the week, the numbers, the total numbers of demonstrators didn't materialize. We certainly had some very dedicated protesters here in town. But overall, I think the key was the approach that the officers took, and working with the demonstrators to allow them, when possible, to achieve whatever it was they were looking to accomplish.
Chief, obviously police have been working very long hours during this. There's a lot of overtime, I'm sure. The next several days, are there going to be less police out on the streets? I mean, is there going to be less of a presence out there?
No, one guarantee that we give whenever we have a large event, such as the Gasparilla Super Bowl, actually any special event in the city, is that we never, ever reduce the level of service that we provide to the neighborhoods, and that won't be different any day of the year.
Chief, you mentioned that the number of protesters didn't match the expectations. Do you think that was because the word went out that it was such an overwhelming show of security and force down here that it wasn't worth their time to cause mayhem?
Yeah, I've been asked to comment on that, and it really would be a guess. Some people say that the weather, there were some of the buses bringing the groups in that canceled, but the information that we had prior to the convention indicated that there were going to be very, very large numbers of demonstrators here, both in planned events and in unplanned and spontaneous events. But not sure if it was the weather or the word got out that law enforcement was here and we weren't going to tolerate any lawlessness. I couldn't say with any certainty what it was that kept them away.
Mayor, you mentioned this is a win-win for everybody, but there were a few businesses that did not. Obviously, some businesses profited greatly from this. But for instance, there's the jewelry store on the first floor of the Tampa Police building. Had to close down for the week because the security fencing was up. People literally could not walk to his business. Is there any financial recourse that people can prove an actual loss of business as a result of something like that?
There is not that we have anticipated. That's not to say that we wouldn't take it under consideration. I mean, we told everybody going in what to expect. We knew that the folks that were immediately close to the perimeter, particularly those that relied on a lunchtime walk-up traffic from downtown workers, would be impacted. We told them not to set their expectations particularly high because we knew the reality of what we were going to be faced with. We knew that there would be employers that encouraged their employees to telecommute, and there wouldn't be the daily walk-up traffic that we normally would experience. That affected particularly the restaurants immediately close to the perimeter. Quiznos was inside the gates. We recognize all that. As we sort through this and go through our after-action reports, we'll have to see. But, I mean, that wasn't something we had contemplated doing.
Mayor, as a follow-up to that, how did you go about telling these businesses to have realistic expectations?
I think, I mean,
what form did that message go out in?
I think in almost every conversation that we've had publicly, and we were pretty transparent, and thankfully you all helped us to get that message out. But we told folks, look, there's going to be inconveniences. There's going to be security perimeters and barriers. There's going to be difficulty for people moving around downtown in close proximity to the event zone. Some of the restaurants were able to take advantage of it because they rented out their entire restaurant for the entire event, like Hat Tricks. There would be others, depending on the product that they serve, like the jewelry store, that may not have a niche in a convention like this. Unless they were selling Republican jewelry, I can't imagine that they would have gotten a lot of traffic, nor should they have expected to get a lot of traffic. The Quiznos situation obviously was unique because it was inside the barriers in a building that the city owns. But yeah, Rick, we tried, certainly I tried, in every conversation that I had, to let people know that, don't set the bar so high and expect that this to be manna falling from heaven, because in some circumstances it wasn't.
Mayor, I know we couldn't have predicted that the protesters weren't going to come, but when you drove downtown over the last 4 days, around the county center, around the courthouse, and you would see National Guardsmen by themselves, nobody around. And some people had called it overkill, that the fencing was too much, telling county workers, not to come here. Do you feel that at any point it was overkill what we did? No,
I absolutely don't. And I would do it again in a heartbeat, even knowing what I know now. I mean, I think the fact that we deployed overwhelming forces, the fact that we took the measures that we did, resulted in the best convention that's ever been put on. Had we not, there could have been a very different scenario, and that would have been far more damaging to us as a community and far more damaging to our efforts to tell Tampa's story to the world. I would rather have had 3 arrests and an overwhelming presence on the street than not enough officers on the street and hours and hours of video of conflict, which would have been far worse than what we did. So I absolutely will go to my grave believing that we made the right decision, that we trained hard, we prepared hard, we set an appropriate tone, and I think the results prove that we were right.
Could it have been done less than for $50 million?
Well, we didn't know that going in, Catherine. I mean, we had to assume that we were going to be faced with what Chicago was faced with at the NATO meeting, what Seattle was faced with at the WTO, what Minneapolis-St. Paul was faced with at the previous convention, because that has been the pattern. Thousands of protesters, hundreds of very violent anarchists who were willing to mix it up with the police officers and destroy personal property. That was what has happened everywhere else but here. And so our goal was to prepare for that, and I'm glad we did. And because we did, we had 3 arrests. Because of our training, we de-escalated the conflict, and I think the results speak for themselves.
Mayor, you were kind of tirelessly appearing on numerous television programs, radio programs, other entities, and things like that. Do you think the one thing you couldn't control, which was the weather, gave a hit to this community's reputation?
No. I don't, Jeff. And the reason I don't is because people know if you come to Florida in the summer, you're going to be dealing with tropical storms. That's our reality. It's no surprise to us and shouldn't be a surprise to anybody else. The fact that it delayed the proceedings for a day, I don't think affected us that much. I think we actually got more coverage because of the storm. And what I will tell you is I think the world was also watching to see how we handled this. And I think what they saw was a city that was prepared, that had a plan, that executed the plan, that was flawless in the execution of that plan, that there was no drama. I mean, I would submit to you that there haven't been too many cities that have been challenged with hosting a major international event like this while at the same time moving into hurricane mode and doing it so that no one noticed. So for me, if I was a CEO sitting out there somewhere thinking about investing in a community, I would want to know that that mayor's competent, that the city is well run, and that when push comes to shove in times of crisis, that they're not holed up hiding somewhere, but they're out there proactively making sure that the citizens are safe, the visitors are safe, and that business goes on.
Lasting impact. One thing that I got a lot of positive comments even when I posted pictures of it on my Facebook page was the bridge lights. Yeah. Are the bridge lights going to stay, or are those just here for the convention?
As I said when I hit that button, those bridge lights are not for the RNC. They are for us forever.
And do you have any specific plans for the DNC, and do you have
Oh man, Jane, just tase him, would you?
I think he means your visit. we break out in a sweat.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead. You said DNC, and I just started lost my mind. I'm sorry. What was the question, Ray?
No, just
Yeah.
if you have any specific plans when you go to Charlotte, and have you been invited? Have you been given a speaking slot?
No. I think Charlie Crist stole my slot.
That was good. That was a good one.
Although I've had many offers from the Republicans that they were happy to trade Charlie to the D's, and they'll take me on their side. Do you have your switch card?
Yeah, right.
No, I'm going to find a bar and have a drink. No, I will be as interested in being out there on the street and seeing how Charlotte does it. I have a unique perch, perhaps more so than anybody there, having just come off of this, to know what works and what doesn't work, and I may be tempted to suggest to the mayor that he deploy folks here and arrest that guy, because I know he's an anarchist. And don't let him fight over cardboard, because that's how they.
Anybody else in the city going up there with you?
No.
Chief, I know this is getting into semantics, but with regard to the number of RNC-related arrests, we've got the machete individual, the person who didn't remove a mask, the assault at Romneyville, and the person in Pinellas County who was supposedly ranting about politics and stopped on the highway. Which of those four are you counting?
Okay, the Pinellas County one is out. I still don't know anything about that.
Okay.
But, and frankly, we could even take the Romneyville out, because it was someone who lived in the shed, and it was another homeless individual that they had a fight, as the mayor said, over sleeping on a piece of cardboard and whose cardboard it was. And apparently the loser ended up with a broken jaw. So we could actually say two, the machete and the bandana.
Chief, you said before the RNC that we hope to have 0 arrests. You're aiming that when people were talking about how many, the jails being open, all that. But you really didn't believe that, did you?
No. I never, and actually I'm sure you have it on tape, but I can't imagine hoping to have 0 arrests was unrealistic.
Yeah.
But I never, ever thought that we would have this low of a number. Realistically, for me, was a Gasparilla, a normal Gasparilla. That would have been a reasonable number. But it's just so difficult. You have to go with the information that you have, the intelligence, the past experiences, and that's what and then prepare for the worst.
Mayor and Chief, we're heading into a 3-day holiday weekend right after this behemoth. How are you guys going to relax or celebrate over the next several days, if at all?
I'm going to reintroduce myself to my kids. Just get some sleep. I cleared my schedule, for Saturday and Sunday. I don't have anything on the agenda. It's just going to be a way to relax. I'm going to try and get around City Hall and thank the employees for doing an amazing job. I shot them all an email this morning, and so no, Jane and I are probably going to do the same thing. We both have young kids. Yeah.
Chief Will, what are you going to be doing too?
I'm going to be infusing money into the Pinellas County beach system. Everyone that I grew up with, there's usually 40 or 50 of us, from the grandkids all the way up to the grandparents, go to the beach every year for Labor Day. So can't wait. And same thing as the mayor, say hello to my kids and make sure they remember who I am.
Chief, real quick, were you trying to kind of kill the protesters with kindness yesterday? You guys brought out some coolers.
I don't know if kill's something we want to have in there. No, that was something that, frankly, I discussed early on with our logistics major, Sophie Teague. I think everybody's aware that the CSX put up a hospitality tent, which was nothing short of amazing, and fed a lot of individuals. And so as a result, we had some food for the officers left over, and we didn't want it to go to waste. And a lot of the shelters didn't take it. And then when we heard that they were running low on supplies and things, said take it down to the camps. And there's absolutely no reason for anything to go to waste. And then those sandwiches were brought down there, they asked if we had any drinks. So the sheriff's office brought down several coolers full of Gatorade and water for them as well. And they were very, very appreciative of that. They literally said that they had reached the point where they had nothing left in that camp.
Ken, you had, throughout this whole process, over the last year, you kept pounding the fact that this is a once-in-a-lifetime event for Tampa.
Yeah.
Is it, given the success that we had, do you think?
Oh, well, it could be twice in a lifetime if the DNC comes here. I don't know.
Stop it.
Yeah, stop, right? I do think it's once in a lifetime. These site selection processes that the RNC, and I'm not so familiar with the DNC, although I do have lots of friends that are Democrats, but I'm not so involved in that process. But I'll tell you that typically since 1972, host cities do not repeat themselves with the same party. So I'm only partly tongue-in-cheek when I say the next opportunity may well be the DNC here, or maybe an Olympic Games. But that's really, you've got to get to that level to really get to something that's bigger than this. When you look at the media coverage, what this impact is, absolutely, I stick by it. Like the mayor said, I'll take it to my grave saying this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and we hit the cover off the ball. No question about it.
Could you see a DNC here or even an Olympics? I know we tried that once before.
Oh, I sure hope so. And I've said this consistently. If, Al Austin may not chair the committee next time. If you can convince him to do that, you are a miracle worker. But, maybe somebody else would. And would I serve on the host committee with the mayor? I think the answer to that would be probably absolutely yes. I'm happy to do it. Economic impact, hundreds of millions of dollars, whether it's the DNC or the Olympics or the automobile dealers. I think it's all good money, and it's all good for Tampa Bay. So time will tell if the DNC comes here at some point.
And did we reach that goal?
The goal of, okay, everybody wants to know the fundraising. Well, the convention happened. We're standing here. I guess the answer is yes, we did reach our goals. Absolutely, 100%. So.
Before you leave, if there was anything you could change, it looked great, sounded great, but is there a low point that you could change or a fine tuning? Was it transportation? Is there anything that could be improved?
Well, I think there was one snag, as most of you know, with transportation one night. We did the post-mortem on it that night about 2:30 in the morning, and we fixed it. We had a plan, and to be blunt about it, that little piece of the plan just didn't work. So we went back and looked at the plan, and we worked with the committee on arrangements, and we fixed it. So, it's hard to sit here today after you got 2-3 hours sleep. I think I got 45 minutes. So my head's a little cloudy. But I can't think of anything right now that I would say was a big disappointment. Obviously, the weather caused a slight hiccup on the beginning. But we had the same issue in St. Paul. In 2008, you remember the hurricane in the Gulf. We suspended the first day. If you look back to New York, 4 hurricanes went through the state of Florida that year. The governor, Jeb Bush at the time, had to come back from New York. The whole Florida delegation left to come back to see their families. So hurricane weather, even if you're not in Florida, can still affect you. So, but I can't think of anything right now that I would say we would do differently. We'll continue to wrap it all up. It'll take a long time for us to wrap this up. So the host committee side will still be in existence for at least 6 more months as we wind everything down. So I can't think of anything we change.
Can the $175 million that we predicted to come to Tampa Bay, do you feel confident that that's what was brought in all said and done?
Well, we'll have to take a look at our RFEC report on October 15th. What I can tell you is, we did reach the goal that we set out to reach to raise our money. The federal money obviously came in. Most of that stayed here in the area and in the state. I know you've seen a few examples that did go out of state, but by and large, the money did stay here. We'll look at the postmortem on the hotel numbers. How much revenue did the F&B, the food and beverage guys get, the hotels? We'll do a thoughtful analysis, and I think you'll see some numbers that you'll be pleased with.
Chief, one more, please.
Yeah.
For you. In the months leading up to the convention, during the discussion of the rules for the convention, a lot of people seized on things that could be violations of the rules, like carrying certain lengths of strain of wine. And what your top people consistently said was, we're going to use discretion and not arrest people just because they may be technically violating the temporary ordinance. But it seems like you went even well beyond that. I can imagine that handcuffing yourself together at the entrance to a power plant, you could find a statute somewhere to make some arrests there if you chose to. But the discretion extended to deciding, well, we're not going to do that here. Can you
again,
describe the thinking about that?
Again, we're looking at what they're trying to accomplish. The reason for the event zone ordinance, and I'll use the example of the masks, was that historically individuals who are going to commit crimes in these type of situations will try to hide their identity by wearing a mask. And we saw, I personally must have seen 30 people with masks on during this. Matter of fact, they went into Likes Park, the mayor was out there, and they had on masks walking around picking up trash in the park, which I might add they didn't find much. But that, they're just trying to get us to react to that, and there's no point in that. The reason for the ordinance was that people will try to hide their identity while they're committing a crime, and that's the reason that we told the officers to use a great deal of discretion. Find out what they're trying to accomplish. If that's taking over an intersection and being photographed, and it doesn't hamper traffic, it's not hurting anyone, let them do it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.